Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Naomi Rozenfeld. Naomi is the EVP of Revenue at Wix Answers, where she leads the global marketing and sales strategy. Naomi is passionate about helping companies and startups provide best-in-class customer experiences and transforming the way companies provide customer support. She was previously the Director of GTM at Wix Answers and Head of Product Marketing at Wix.com. Prior to joining Wix, Naomi was an entrepreneur and founded two travel startups. So sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's dive right into our conversation with Naomi. Welcome, Naomi.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
All right. Could you share with us a little bit about your journey? How is it that you got into what it is that you're doing now with Wix? And, it mentions in your bio that you were an entrepreneur and you founded two travel startups. Why did you make the switch from being an entrepreneur to working in revenue at Wix? And what's working with Wix all about? Just tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say that quite a long time ago, I started my journey as an entrepreneur. I always had this dream to build my own business, be my own boss. And I set out on that journey, I would say pretty young age. I started my first startup. I was always very passionate about the travel space. It seemed, ripe for disruption, or there were a lot of startups trying to tackle a lot of everyday problems that people had when it came to traveling. I founded my first startup with two other founders, which quickly actually turned into a full-on business that was just running already by itself. We had won a really big tender, from the Jerusalem municipality for travel, and very quickly just became a business. I sold my shares there, and I went on to found the second startup with another founder, also in the travel space, trying to tackle a completely different problem, which was more about, travel marketplaces and just travel ideas. And that one pretty much hit me in the face, I would say, about a year into it. My co-founder and I had very different views of how we wanted to take that startup forward. And I found myself pretty much 1 year with a startup that, I put a lot into, just basically fizzling. So I'd pretty much hit that 99% statistic of startups failing. And at that point, I had a friend who I'd known from one of the accelerator programs that I was part of that said to me, hey, I know that they're trying to build a product marketing team at Wix. Would you be interested if I connect you to somebody? I was, kind of broke, looking for a job that was a little bit more stable and going to provide me with a little bit more stability. And I said, sure, why not? My idea was to go to Wix maybe for a couple of years, save up again, and go back to being an entrepreneur. And here I am, 6.5 years later, still at Wix.
All right. Now, for those of our listeners that may not necessarily know what Wix does, I know that they're one of the more newer platforms for website development, but could you just share with us a little bit about what Wix provides and how you're able to meet your customers' expectations based on what the market is looking for?
Yeah. So Wix is pretty well known as a cloud-based, web development company that makes it easy for anybody to have an online presence. And that could be everything from, creating your website online, your portfolio, regardless of what business or vertical you're coming from, and also to provide you with all of the tools that you need in order to maintain and to run your business on a daily basis. So everything from, managing your bookings to your payments, to your customers, and all that communication is pretty much what, Wix is known for in the industry. And I had pretty much started in the marketing department, heading the product marketing team there. And, there's always been a very, very huge focus as a SaaS-centric company on product. And everything that we did in terms of marketing was about how do we enable our users, how do we inspire them? But there was always a very strong connection to the product. And I would say about a couple years into my journey at Wix, I had heard about this new B2B product, something completely different than what we were doing at Wix. Wix is a very successful and large B2C company. Today, we have almost 200 million users around the world. And there was this new initiative starting kind of inside of Wix that was looking to go to market. And basically what it was looking to take our homegrown, in-house built platform that we use for customer support at Wix and to start basically offering that to other businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I was super intrigued. I met with Eladiran, who, is the CEO of Wix Answers, and he was basically running this project from day one. And I had met him for a cup of coffee, and I had heard about his vision. Hearing about customer support was something that was completely new to me. And I had known a lot about marketing, a lot about obviously like web tools being part of Wix. And suddenly there was this new product that was completely unrelated to Wix for total B2B, in terms of its business model and its needs, that was looking to basically launch out of the larger Wix.com. And I heard about his vision. I heard about the story. And at that point, my knowledge on support was maybe Zendesk. I had known that Zendesk was a tool that you use obviously for customer support. More than that, I didn't really know. And I was so intrigued and excited to hear about where they saw this product going, and that the same pain point that Wix was trying to solve for many years ago in building out this own in-house technology that was now also very relevant to other businesses 10 years later. I was like, I really want in on this. And, the pretty much from that point, the rest is history. And I've been with Wix Answers since that point.
All right. So in terms of customer experience and Wix being able to fulfill that for their customers, what are some of the ways that you differentiate yourself from other service providers that give that same kind of service?
So it's a really good question in terms of tooling, and obviously looking at this industry, which is a very saturated space and a very competitive one at that, right? I mean, any business, regardless of how big or small you are, you're always going to need tools to communicate with your customers, right? That's really pretty much like the heart of every business, is communicating with your customers and, supporting them. And I think what really is different about Wix Answers is the story that kind of lies behind how this product came to be. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot like AWS when you think about it. The only difference is that we didn't really create an industry. We were a real business that we were growing super fast. Wix was at the point of this tipping point of explosive growth. Our users were growing by the millions. We were a SaaS-centric company. We really needed ways to connect the product teams, the marketing teams with the user voice. And from day one, we've always been very centered around capturing that user voice in terms of our, future roadmap, our strategy, and really understanding where we were going as a company.
Right.
We looked in the market for tools, and nothing really was able to capture all of that. Nothing was really able to connect all of those dots or put knowledge at the hands of our users in the way that we had imagined it. Nothing was really kind of connecting support to the internal part of the organization. It was always those traditional help desks, right, where you expect your users to go open a ticket, get a reply, and then you just solve that ticket and, you're done with that. And we saw it as much more. Like, we knew that our product teams, our future roadmap had to be connected to the users. So we set out on this journey to build this tool. Now, if you look in the market today, there's a lot of different solutions that offer basically everything. You can connect all of your different channels. You obviously, can have a lot of timeline view of your customers. But what really sets Wix Answers apart is the way we built the foundation of it. So all of your channels are just seamlessly connected into one single timeline. So regardless of whether a user or a customer starts to chat with you and then they want a callback, or they want to, get an email, or you want to follow up with an article, everything is just this seamless transition between channels. Mm-hmm. And that's just pretty much a byproduct of us building our own in-house technology. So we don't have third-party apps, and we don't have third-party vendors that are integrated into our platform. Everything is just pretty much built into one really cohesive product and platform. And the end result is that your users have a much more seamless transition between any of your channels. You obviously have much purer and better customer data and just data at all. And the agents have, one interface that is like that single source of truth about your customers. And that I would say is pretty much one of the biggest differentiators that we have today. And when it comes to like scale and doing things in high volume, we know a thing or two about that in terms of, growing really quickly. And there's a lot of businesses that we talk to today, whether they're startups or even really larger scale operations that do things at high volume. And when you're trying to do something at high volume and you need to move the needle just a little bit, even if it's just 1% or just, a small fraction of making changes, that has really large implications. And what we found is that even smaller organizations like startups that were very lean and needed to move really quickly were suffering from the same thing that really large businesses were suffering from. And that was just a high dependency on development and high, costs of running their operations because they really needed that R&D dependency in order to move or to execute anything within the support organization. And the way we had engineered and designed this platform was that pretty much if you want to make a change between now and tomorrow, you want to launch a new channel, you want to, change your entire help center, you have to pivot, or you need to just really quickly adapt, you're able to do that without having to go to a project manager who's going to build it out or plan it for you. You don't really need the developers, to obviously start building that out for you and then launch. And that ability to go faster than ever and to move and to iterate in a much faster way is really, really impactful for businesses today, especially when, support and CX is really like the heart of any business and organization.
Agreed. Totally agreed. So Wix has definitely been able to bridge that gap for a way that customers can communicate with their clients in a very easy, seamless, frictionless way. And I mean, people don't like to jump through hoops. The less steps that they have to take, the much better experience that they have. And you want them to feel motivated to interface with your platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Naomi, could you share with us maybe what's one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
I'm not sure that I'm going to be that creative with this one. It might actually sound a little bit mundane, but I feel that LinkedIn has pretty much changed my life and so many people around us. I remember that when I started at this, business cards were a big deal. And I mean, they still are. I have a whole bunch of business cards sitting in my bag waiting to be given out probably at the next conference if we'll have one in the near future, given this whole COVID situation. But LinkedIn really made it easy to get to people that you would otherwise have a hard time getting through to. And I find that so many interesting conversations, partnerships, relationships have just started on LinkedIn. And it's just become like a tool that, I really can't live without, regardless of whether it's, on a personal connection level or even within our business, just reaching out to people and striking up a conversation around subject matter that's important to you. It's just, really become easier than ever thanks to LinkedIn.
All right. So LinkedIn it is. In your journey, in your professional journey and even in your personal journey, are there any books that have had the biggest impact on you, books that have really inspired you? Maybe could you share one or two with us?
Yeah, so there's a book that I read actually many years ago. I'd say it's about 5 years ago. I actually read this one with my son. We made it kind of like an everyday thing that I would read to him chapters in this book. And it's actually written by, let me just remember this. I don't want to misquote this. It's actually written by R.J. Palacio, and the book is called Wonder. And it's actually a children's book. I don't know why. I always think that somehow children's books always have like very interesting messages about life in them. And this one really kind of got to me. It was a story about friendship and just how raw human relationships and how complex they can be sometimes. And, obviously this was written for probably children between the age of 10 to 12, but it was just a really, really wonderful book that was just drawing a lot of depth in terms of human nature, friendships, fear, courage. And that one kind of stuck with me. Another book that I actually just finished as of recently that's more in the adult playing field is called Play Bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's a very interesting book as well about, they kind of title it as how pirates and dreamers, innovators can create and dominate markets. And what I really, really love about this one is that a lot of the way we look at things is just the mindset. And sometimes to really succeed at something, you just need to change the conversation or change the category or just change the way you approach something. And it just really comes from this place of not being the follower, but just trying to find different ways to lead. And that's been a book that I will probably be revisiting again. Very well written and some really good ideas in that one. It's called Play Bigger.
All right. So we will have the links to both those books that Naomi shared in the notes of this episode. Now, Naomi, we have a lot of listeners who are business owners. Some of them are managers in organizations where they are charged with the responsibility of enhancing customer experience, building customer loyalty, and they feel they have great products and services, but they lack the constantly motivated human capital. If you were sitting across the table from one of those persons, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them to have a successful business?
Focus, definitely focus. It sounds really simple, and I can say firsthand, I've always struggled with this myself, also in the businesses that I've built and, also with the teams that we lead today, especially when you're working with, talented people that have a lot of different ideas. And especially when you're building any new business, you want to pretty much just tackle it all. And I would just say that sometimes focus is something that actually really motivates the teams, where it sounds a little bit contrary or counterintuitive because you can have a lot of really great ideas and people get highly motivated by them. But then trying to tackle too much too soon or not all of your areas of strengths can sometimes be very demotivating to teams and, people that are helping you obviously grow your business and create the strategies and taking things forward on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. So focus has tended to be something that where I feel when, there needs to be a push to motivation, just to look at everything, look at that one area that you can really do well at, obviously involve your teams, talk to them. And that focus has a tendency to kind of invigorate that sense of okay, we're really going to go after this. We're going to tackle it and we can really win here.
All right. So focus. That's a big one. All right. Now, Naomi, could you share with us maybe one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Maybe something you're working on to develop yourself or your people?
Okay. So, there's a lot of things that are going on right now. I'm just trying to think. There's definitely a project that I think we've been working on really, really hard that I know was a cross-team effort and was something that was really new and different that we were trying to launch. And it's a new community that we're going to be launching next month that's going to actually be in the space of customer experience. And we're looking to really create a whole new conversation with people and connect them in a way that they haven't really been connected before in this space. Mm-hmm. And it's been something that we've been planning as a team for a very, very long time, carefully considering, the leaders, the brands, the emerging technologies and companies that we really wanted them to be part of this conversation. And I know it was a huge cross-team effort that, that we've been basically putting a lot of resources and focus on. That I would say that that's something that right now we're super excited about. And it's going to be a really big one for us in terms of successfully launching this next month.
All right. That sounds exciting. So our listeners would have listened to this episode and they are quite intrigued with what Wix is doing. Maybe they want to explore some of your products on the platform and they want to learn a little bit more about how, what you guys have to offer can really help to innovate their own businesses and how they can integrate that in a very effective way. Where can they find you online if they wanted to connect with you further? I know you're going to say LinkedIn.
Yeah. LinkedIn. Yeah, you got that. Definitely LinkedIn, right? It sounds mundane, but I think sometimes the most simple tools that we take, for granted are the ones that are, become kind of our part of our everyday life. Definitely LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. if people are interested in learning more about Wix Answers and what we're doing, and the way we're trying to really create new conversations around customer support, customer experience, they can find us also on LinkedIn or just by going to wixanswers.com. We have a lot of information there about what we're aiming to do, and what are some of the things that we're really trying to help companies tackle when it comes to customer experience.
Mm-hmm. All right, sounds good. All right, Naomi, before we wrap our interviews up, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? It kind of helps to get you back on track or keep you focused on what you need to achieve or get through.
Oh, that's a really good question, Unique. I would need to think about that one for a second.
Sure.
I'm trying to think. So would you say that you're like from around, would it be around the focus area, or just something that would be kind of like a meaningful quote?
Yeah, just any quote. It could be a personal quote that you kind of just go by on a personal note, if you're faced with any challenge or adversity, or it could be something professional. Maybe when you do presentations, this is something that you will refer to say, this is like a life quote that I think is applicable to business. So, just as long as it helps you.
Okay, I'll take it from a little bit of a different angle if I'm allowed.
Sure, of course.
There's something that kind of stuck with me, I think, more so as a woman, and as a woman in business, also as a mother. I have 2 boys, but also a girl. So I understand that the way that we want to sometimes lead things and prove our independence, sometimes we need to push a little bit harder than some of our counterparts. And there's definitely a quote that kind of stuck with me from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I'm not going to quote directly, but if I remember correctly, it went something along the lines of, my mother always told me to be a lady. And basically for that meant to be your own person and to be independent. And that's something that I push through on a lot, is just being really obviously your own person, to be independent, but also from the aspect of being a woman and what that means today, especially in the business world and leading teams, and to see women obviously in positions of power and, making really big decisions. That for me is like a quote that goes really far.
Nice. Very nice. So we'll definitely look up the actual quote just to support the message you just shared with us, and we'll have it in the show notes. So thank you so much for sharing, Naomi. So again, Naomi, thank you for coming on our podcast. We really appreciate all the great insights that you shared with us today about what Wix Answers is doing around innovation and, increasing that conversation on customer experience and customer support, and all of the things that you're trying to do so that you can help your clients really deliver a quality experience to their customers in the best possible way using the platforms that you've so wonderfully created. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, just want to remind you, please feel free to log on to Facebook and join our Facebook group. It's Navigating the Customer Experience Community. And hop on over to Twitter and follow us at Navigating CX. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. Thank you for listening to Navigating the Customer Experience. If you'd like to connect with us even more, please feel free to hop onto Facebook and join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community. And of course, feel free to follow us on Twitter at Navigating CX. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.